Do you feel depressed, disillusioned, discontent, disappointed, depressed? Can happen. Can happen to anybody. Happens all the time. Just a while ago I was called by somebody who had just had a number of different challenges. They've been let down by friends and people in their life. They're not working at the moment. They feel very isolated and they're at a point of self-doubt, not knowing who they are, where they are, what they can do next. They've also got that compounded by health challenges and all the rest of it. Perhaps your life is the same, or perhaps you've been there. And this can happen to people at all stratas in society. I've worked with people who are very, very wealthy who have this challenge, people who have been in the public eye who have this challenge, and people who are unknown. People like you and me living their everyday lives, some who are employed, some who are unemployed, some who are self-employed. It is the same thing. This disappointment, this disillusion. Let's deal with this central word, this disillusion. And disillusion is really saying that somehow that what's going on isn't tallying with what it is that you're wanting. You've become disillusioned. Well, guess what? Being disillusioned is a great thing, because it actually means that the illusion you have around something falls away. The illusion that we have around life falls away. And very often it's only when death, bereavement, ill health, separation, redundancy, or some kind of real difficulty comes knocking at the door. And it strips away everything that we think about life, all of our ideas or ideals, all the idyllic stuff about life, and it strips us back and we're off to numb. What on earth is this thing? Who on earth is it that I am? And yet this idea persists that I should be here, I should be doing this, I should have this stuff going on. Where does it say that? Where's the book that says that by this particular age you should have this going on? At this particular time the world should look like this, like this, like this, and your career should look like this, like this, like this. It would seem that there's two choices. It would seem that there's two choices: to fight life, and that's what goes on a lot of the time, or to embrace life. If you fight life, you ain't going to win. If you embrace life, then life will embrace you, because you are already at one with life. Life is already at one with you. You are of it. So very often we are fighting ourselves. We're fighting the very movement within ourselves very often that we know very little about. So these different emotions that we often feel are part of that human condition. We often think that they don't have any particular purpose. Sometimes, again, when the sadness or when the feeling actually something doesn't feel right comes knocking in, it is an invitation. It's an invitation to ask ourselves, who am I? Where am I? Because life, basically, it strikes me, it would seem as though there are two things going on. There is a spiritual question and there is a material question. The spiritual question is, who am I? What on earth is all of this stuff about? And this is what me and this lady were having a conversation about earlier. What is all of this stuff about? Who am I? What's going on? Some people go down a spiritual path. Some people go down a humanist path. Some people go down a scientific path of looking at who it is that they are. Who is it that you are? And most of the things that usually come up, they're not the answer. You aren't your job. That may well change. You're not your colour, your creed. You didn't choose it. You're not your name. You didn't choose that either. You're not your gender. You didn't choose that. All of these things that just happen, we have nothing to do with that. So who am I is a subtler thing. You might find yourself just in this space where that just seems that I am. Then we have this material question. What am I to do with my life? Very often this question becomes coloured by all the ideas of what it is that you should do, what it is that you should look like. The person who spoke to me had all sorts of challenges with people saying you should look like this, you should be like this, here's what you should be doing with your career, here's how much you should weigh, and all this kind of stuff. And all of this made her more and more depressed. No surprise. And even when she went after and achieved some of those particular things in terms of doing her own thing, in terms of losing weight, people vanished. And she wasn't happy. The thing that she thought would be there wasn't there. Let's look at this material question. The material question, what is it I'm to do in my life? The answer to that will probably happen quite naturally. You'll probably do what it is that you are fashioned to do. But first of all, this first question, this who am I question, what is this stuff question, is a question that's perhaps worth sitting with. Don't expect necessarily to find any answers. You may well find that the answers that are put out there and pontificated about are just suggestions. Life is this thing that we know so little about that seems to be happening. It seems to be happening even now as my fingernails are growing, as the eyes are blinking, as the heart is beating. That I have all sorts of ideas about, but the ideas are just the ideas. Life is what life is. And this is what is going on. You have all these ideas about life, and then there is life. Life isn't the ideas about life. And disappointment and disillusion comes in when we're just taking the ideas that we have, and we're just thinking, well, life doesn't look like this. There may be times where it's time to throw out the forecast, throw out the map, and realise, wow, here it is. I know nothing for sure. I've got all these ideas. People have told me all these things about myself, the world, and so on, but I know very little about it firsthand. I just seem to be here, and I have all these different emotions that seem to be going on. Wow, that's illuminating. That's an exciting moment to get to in life. What's going to happen from here? I don't know. One minute I seem to feel happy, the next minute I feel sad, the next minute I feel energized, the next feeling I'm feeling low, the next minute I'm feeling this and that. That is the movement of life. It can seem scary at first of all. It can seem as though there's no sense of control, that everything's just happening haphazardly. Perhaps it is, but perhaps there's also a movement of it. It would seem that when we sit with this and when we embrace life, when we realise that this is the movement, that it is just happening. Sleep falls upon us. We find ourselves awake. We find that all of this stuff is going on. It just is happening. We find that our life has gone in the particular kind of a way that it's gone. We find that the seasons come and go and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so this is life, and it just has its own movement. And this is how it is that I find myself. And I can't know anything more than that. That is an embracing of life. Suddenly you can become compassionate to yourself. Suddenly you can become compassionate to others. Suddenly you can become compassionate to life because you are at one with it. There's no longer the friction with it. The friction with it has been removed. So you're here, you're present. You're no longer expecting the things of life to fulfill you, to give you some sense of completion, because you are already complete, you are already of life, you're already part of life. And then this thing about what is it I'm going to do, which is the other material, thing, what am I going to do to sustain myself? We can let go of the ideas of you should be doing this, you should be doing that. What is it that seems to really resonate with you? Probably you'll find that you'll do that which your skill set has there. In my own case, I'd worked in the media, I then was a singer and performer, became a Samaritan volunteer, and I became fascinated by this human condition stuff and wanting to help people with their lives and so on. And I looked and I could see that the different threads all had to do with people, connecting with people. When I was in the media, training people to appear on TV and helping people to shine, I found that there's this thread that had to do with people. So therefore I've naturally done what it is that I'm fashioned to do. That's it. And it will probably be the same in your case. And that's what I find time and time again when I'm working with people. Our job is just to be still enough to hear what it is that's being said, what it is that's coming through, just to be in tune enough with life. And that's the invitation of life. So again, if you're disappointed, disillusioned, depressed, gently look at the ideas. Gently know, okay, these are the ideas that I have about how life should be, but there are no guarantees of life. It is the movement that it is, that I know so little about. And suddenly, that depressed, that repressed, suddenly there's a bit more space and we become more reinflated. We become inspired as the breath comes back to the body. We become reconnected, so we are at one with nature because we realise that we are of nature. This life thing isn't separate from us, we're not fighting it, it's not life and us. We are life, life is us. This quote came to me once, if we're quiet enough, perhaps then life will whisper its secrets to you. If you're quiet enough, perhaps life will whisper its secrets to you.